Well, hello and a warm welcome to all our viewers from across the world. Today I want to talk about a game which I had against Jyrki. It was the finals of the LaattSSK Suomalainen Shakkikerho Chess Club Spring Cup, the finals of the cup. And it was two games, and this is the first game. I'm white. Queen's opening, or whatever it's called. And he's gone for this g6 line. So this can either develop into a King's Indian or it can go into a Grunfeld, most likely. He's gone for the Grunfeld, characterized by d5 as opposed to d6. d6 and bishop fianchetto is a common structure, but d5 is the Grunfeld. It's a much more crazy opening, a lot more theoretical, a lot sharper. I studied it heavily at one point in my life, but not so much these days, and it's a bit too crazy for me, so I prefer something a bit more sober. So I just kind of declined the Grunfeld and played a more positional kind of position. But here's the thing, I actually didn't know much of what I was doing in the opening, now that I think of it. Normally I play moves like h3 and pawn takes and bishop here, but for some reason I went against my usual grain in this game. I call it the jitters, but whatever it was, I found myself in a little bit of trouble here, not knowing quite how to handle this opening. And so I went to a kind of crazy move here. I mean, I just thought it has a good chance to come here and cause some trouble, but honestly, I didn't really know why I was playing this. Just played it. And pretty soon I realized I'm getting into quite a bit of trouble, so I moved my queen here. Also, a little bit of a nothing move. And at this point in the game, I realized that, you know what? The opening hasn't worked out for me. My opponent is an extremely good tactician, and I want to just simplify the position now because I need to bail out of this opening. So I decided to capture the knight, kind of losing a tempo in the process because I already moved the knight before. I could have also played f4 here, but it's just too committal, and with the pawn capture here and the bishop open line there, it just didn't look good at all. So I just wanted to clear the air a little bit. And that's why I played this sequence of moves. Now black has a small advantage. And now he's pressing even harder on the center with the bishop opening up, rook coming here, lots of pressure building on white at present. King still in the middle of the board. This is not an easy position to play for anyone. So again, I thought, let me just simplify things a little bit. I think I can still keep a hold of things if I keep it a little bit simple. And yeah, this was a good move from Jyrki. He didn't recapture the pawn, he just went right away. I was kind of hoping he would take it with the pawn and then I could move my bishop here and trade bishops and all that, but he chose a more aggressive line which I didn't actually factor in prior. So now I have a bit of rook pressure on my queen, and king is still a bit vulnerable, and this e3 pawn is also very weak, so I have to figure out what to do. What did I do next? Okay, bishop there. I guess the idea with this is that if he wants to capture, he cannot capture with the rook, he's going to have to capture with the pawn. And that I wouldn't mind at all, because then I'd feel a lot more secure in my position. In addition, also the rook gets a chance to move in, maybe, who knows. So now his queens come here with a bit of an attack on the e3 square and g2 as well. So I decide to defend it with queen f2. Not so sure if it was the best way to defend, but you know, the rooks were going to come in the way as well, and they were both going to be hammering down this line. So I thought this is sort of protecting it while staying out of the danger area and holding on to the b2 pawn, which is also being attacked. So here I guess he makes a small error. Very small though, and the idea is to just keep the bishop looking at that pawn because we don't want him to take it with the rook. he could at this point go for this line here, but no, sorry, he can't because the bishop's there. Anyway, he finally takes it with the pawn, and here I suppose is where maybe I'm able to finally get into the game a little bit. Computer thinks I should move my bishop there, and that makes a lot of sense, but I decided to get my rook out first. I just wanted to move the rook. And it seems this is a bit of an error because there is pressure brewing right here. Bishop to d4. No one saw this in the game. But bishop to d4 would have been a killer move, because if I'd taken it, queen takes rook. And if I don't take it, then queen takes this pawn because it's overloaded. So, key point to note. But fortunately he didn't spot that, and he's just slow building his pressure. And again I make a blunder, you could say, because the same motif applies as before. But he hasn't seen it, so fortunately we don't have to worry about that. Instead he goes with this line. I mean, it's a similar idea, but except without the rook pin motif. And this, fortunately, I can easily defend with my rook. And then just recalibrate back to the second rank. Second rank because, well, eventually I might be able to double up these rooks here. And yeah, I think it's just better on the second rank. That's a bit of a nothing move there from Jyrki. King to f8. I think he lost the plot a little bit there. I mean, we were both running low on time, I suppose. It was a rapid game. Here's where I thought, okay, now I have a bit of a chance. So castle kingside. He's launched the attack. I'm just keeping my position nice and flexible now. I want my bishop to be able to maneuver, do all sorts of things. I feel I have control of the situation here. So putting up pressure on that pawn, and he's decided to abandon the pawn and instead go for the rook invasion. So I decide to play a little bit more cautiously while still pressuring that pawn. And he's still going for it. So things are getting a bit wild here. Seems like taking the rook was a mistake. Oh, right, of course, because I can take his queen. One would think that's so obvious. And that is what I do. Taking the queen is the right move to play here. But it's also quite scary because, this rook's coming up and it's going to go boom, boom, the queen's there. There's quite a lot of pressure. It's a bit committal. And the thing which works in my favor is the bishop is attacking the rook. So you can't just double up right away. You've got to make a patient move. And he does that. But the pressure is still on the board. So I have to play precisely here. And I decide I'm going to give my king a chance to escape. That's what I saw as important here. And now he's ratcheting up the pressure on that bishop. And I decided to, give up the bishop at this point because that's the best way to handle it. I could have held my ground, held on to that bishop and, gone for a situation where it's rook, bishop, and queen, with the other rook coming in there as well. But I just thought it's better to just give the rook free here. Give the bishop for free. So, now we're in this situation, and I know that he needs something big. So I'm not going to play too defensively. I'm going to give him attacking threats of my own. So even though he's attacking my rook, I decide I'm going to attack his rook. And here he makes the final critical blunder here. Queen captures with check, so there's, it's just easy here. Not the best game from Jyrki, I would say, in retrospect. Anyway, let's go on to game 2 in the next video. Stay tuned.